Galen, I really want to understand the nature of reality and whether we live in a materialistic world or whether there's some other non-physical components. And I'm told that metaphysics, is part of philosophy, is a methodology that can help me. Now, metaphysics sounds like a study of the occult or middle-aged people. So what is metaphysics and how could it help us understand physicalism?
Well, they say that the name metaphysics is almost accidental, that it was just the book by Aristotle that came after the book called Physics. So it doesn't really have a meaning, but it's very not difficult to say what it is. It's just it's the attempt to study the most general characteristics of what is, what may be, and what must be.
What are some examples?
The most general characteristics. Well, I mean, perhaps this is a very low-level one, but I would say here's a metaphysical truth, that you can't have experiences or feelings without having a subject who has those feelings. And that has been denied, but it's not true.
So that's a metaphysical question. The relationship between an experience and an experiencer.
Yeah.
That's the kind of metaphysical. Some people say, well, that's obvious.
Well, I mean, among the great questions are things like what is causation, what is a person, what is existence itself? And then the famous unanswerable metaphysical question, why is there something rather than nothing?
Okay, so we have all these metaphysical questions,
yeah.
And the one that you've focused on, which I've been interested in my whole life, is the nature of physicalism, materialism, the characteristics of the world that we find ourselves in. How can metaphysics begin to discern what is this physical world?
Yeah, I would say, I think that one of the main tasks of metaphysics might sound a bit disappointing, but I think it's negative. It's saying, it's reminding you of what you're ignorant of. And this is sort of beautifully expressed by John Locke in the 17th century, for example. So here would be a case. A lot of people think that materialism or physicalism is true, that everything is physical. And some people find that kind of depressing. I have a particular interest in this, and I'd say that by the time I've finished looking at that in a metaphysical way, you might have less reason to be depressed. Would you like me to explain?
Yes. Well, I'm depressed all the time when I think about what reality is, so I need some help.
Well, some people think that if physicalism is true, everything's just grinding along and there's nothing you can do about anything, and there doesn't seem to be a place for consciousness and so on. But here's a fact about science, and metaphysics, as it were, is, as they say, the queen of the sciences. I mean, the scientists wouldn't like that, but it's an old name for metaphysics. It comes along and says to the scientist, hold it. Maybe less follows from what you've got than you think. And here, the point that I like is that what metaphysics comes along and says about physics is, look, all that physics gives you is knowledge of structure. If you look at what it is, it's a set of equations with numbers in them. So you've got the inverse square law of gravitational attraction, or you've got force equals ma, or you've got the periodic table. I mean, I'm sure that the periodic table says something true about the ultimate nature of reality, but all it gives you is numbers and structures. It does not tell you about the intrinsic nature of the thing, the world, that has the structure. So putting it strongly, and I don't think this is too strong, physics, the science, tells you nothing about the intrinsic nature of the world, except for its structure.
Scientists would say that that's a radical empiricism. The only thing we can know is just some observation. We can't see the reality as it really is, and you're impeding progress of science as opposed to telling us anything new.
Yeah, some of them might say that, but I think others might agree. They just say, look, a lot of physicists say, oh, well, we can't understand quantum mechanics. Doesn't Richard Feynman say something famous about this? The more you think you understand it, the less you understand it, or something. We don't understand this. We don't know the nature of this something out there. But, the sums work and the equations work, and we can build things. I'm not impeding anything by saying this. I'm just saying physicalism shouldn't bring you down if you think that it's somehow shutting out feelings and emotions and rich conscious states.
So you believe that through metaphysics and through your metaphysical analysis, that you can bring into the physical world more than is traditionally there.
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you do that?
I think someone once said that I was a magic materialist, but I'm saying I'm a hard-nosed materialist. I'm a real materialist who thinks it's all material, but if everything's material, that means that feelings and consciousness must also be material. So the material is much more than we thought.
So that is a radical materialist. You call it a realist?
I call it real materialism because I think it's anyone who's a materialist has got to accept that feelings and emotions are real. So they've just got to accept that they are themselves physical. And that tells them that physics, the subject, doesn't tell us all there is to say about the physical, the actual thing out there.
And what follows from that? I mean, it seems like that's...
Well, it isn't going to kind of guide a new research program, but it's a move that you make as a metaphysician, which I think is very important. And it also means, I suppose, insofar as it delivers a message, it says, stay open-minded, don't think that you've nailed it all.